I just heard about it last minute, and I had to
Oh.
learn the dialogue and go up there. I didn't know anything about the director or the movie or anything, and then I liked the character, and we talked about it, and they wanted to, you know, and we decided we'd do him with an Irish accent, you know, instead of an American accent. And
Yeah, I think that was right. I think an Irish accent sounds stronger and more sinister, I guess. I don't know.
I think you're right. I think you're right to sing. Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watcher Pass, and today I'm joined by Timothy V. Murphy, who plays August Sinclair in Broil, which is out pretty much everywhere. You can watch it disc, digitally, any way you want. It's just a really good film. You should check it out. We're going to talk to him in just a second, but first, let's check out the trailer. And while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. I'll spend a lot. Thank you.
Father, this will be our last harvest.
No child of mine has ever left the family. 100 more harvests.
No.
50.
No.
1. And your firstborn. And you too can have your freedom.
Who are we?
I've been waiting for you to ask that question. The Sinclairs are gifted on purpose to make the world right. We die on the traitors tonight!
A toast, good family, good drink, and great food.
This is Timothy V. Murphy, who plays August Sinclair in one of my favorite films last year that just didn't get as much traction as I think it should have. Broil. It's a film by Edward Drake, and it's kind of a very interesting hybrid horror film. You've got some mysticism, some really interesting cooking, and a lot of dread. And I guess I loved your character. I thought that you and Jonathan Lipnicki were kind of the main stars, and you were the powerful, dramatic one. I really loved that persona that you were able to pull. I guess, how did you get involved in this film? I assume you were always set to play August because that's kind of a perfect role for you.
I wasn't a producer. Actually, I'm working with the director Edward Drake at the moment in New Mexico on a movie with Bruce Willis. So
awesome.
I'm doing that's what I'm doing in New Mexico right now, and Corey Large is producing. So he directed Broil, and Corey Large produced it. So I got a call from Corey, who I knew, if I would go up to Vancouver and shoot this movie in 2 weeks or something. And I'd never met Ed before, and we hit it off like a house on fire. And we've done about that Under Siege that's coming out. I did with Ed, and I've done a couple of things now with him, but we're always looking for another great project to do together. And I think next year we probably will have something, so.
Awesome. So I was able to talk to Ed around when Broil came out, and he said the same thing about you. He said that he loved working with you. He thought you were a fantastic actor, and he's always looking for things to do with you. So that's awesome. I'm glad you found kind of a compatriot, or at least a movie companion for your future projects as well.
It's great having that in this industry, Yeah,
definitely,
no question.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And especially like that project seemed like it kind of came together very fortuitously. It wasn't filmed during lockdown, but when I asked him, I was like, is this a lockdown film? Because it felt like something that could have been. And it seemed like the whole setup was something that could have been done during lockdown. You just like rented out a house and were there for the entire time.
Yeah.
I guess, what was that experience like? Was that similar to other movies that you've done, or was it more kind of personal or indie? I guess I don't know what the right word would be for that.
Well, I've done a lot of independent movies of late, right? And so I know I loved. I mean, it's great, a bunch of actors just getting together in a house, and hopefully they're paying you enough money to travel from LA up to Vancouver, so you make some money. I just got an offer in the last while where where I was offered, the script is good. I was in the middle of reading the script, but God, they were offering no money for me to travel up to the East Coast, and I have 2 young kids and a wife, and you have to kind of weigh the things up. But in this particular project, there was a little bit of money, and I loved doing it, and it was just a bunch of actors, again, a bit like Hell Hath No Fury, an independent movie where the gang of us just wanted to come out with a good project, you know, and everybody got on great. And I think the cinematographer is great in it as well. So yeah, it was fun.
For this new project, if if it's near Washington D.C., you're welcome to stay with me. I've got a spare room.
I love it. Thanks so much.
And then so you said that you weren't originally set to play August. Who were you originally set to play in Broil?
Oh no, I was.
Oh, okay,
I was, but I just heard about it last minute, and I had to learn the dialogue and go up there. I didn't know anything about the director or the movie or anything, and then I liked the character, and we talked about it, and they wanted to, you know, and we decided we'd do him with an Irish accent, you know, instead of an American accent, and you know, I think it turned out. I like, you know, who knows how the projects are going to turn out sometimes, but sometimes I take jobs because of the character that I'm going to be playing, if you know what I mean. So yeah,
I think that was right. I think an Irish accent sounds stronger and more sinister, I guess. I don't know.
I think you're right. I think you're right. The same. Yeah.
And your character, like, I loved how just kind of evil he was. I mean, he wasn't like outwardly evil, but when as the film progressed, you kind of saw what happened. He was just so vile. Like, how did, you know, I assume that came through in the script, like it must have been a fun role to play, or did you know like kind of how dark your character was going to become throughout it?
Yeah, I mean, the darker the better for me for some reason. I mean, in life in general, I'm quite a happy-go-lucky person, but when I play parts, and I like to go deep and dark and sides of me that very often don't come out in real life, I guess, apart from my temper sometimes, you know. But yeah, the darker the better. I even said to Ed, do you mind if I actually eat this raw meat here, just bite into it and come out of it, you know? So I remember that little scene, and Ed said, yeah, I didn't want to ask you to do it, but if you want to do it. So yeah, I mean, if there's anything I can do to make it more dark, I will do, you know? So yeah, or sinister.
There we go. That's like method acting right there. You just went all in, and considering what that meat was in the film, that is a very dark scene. I love that.
It was good, yeah. I mean, if I could even get more sinister, I had other ideas, but you know, some Ed would go for and some Ed wouldn't go for. So you know, it's like, yeah.
And you know, you're the central kind of conflict in this is you versus Jonathan Lipnicki, who I forget what his name was in the film, but I think he's just the chef. You know, what was it like working with him? I know his character was very different than, you know, what I would be used to for him. I think your character was a lot darker and more sinister than maybe a lot of people are used to. What was it like kind of working with him, and what was that interplay like?
Always fantastic. Johnny's great, you know. He'd done a stage play as well a few years before with a good actor friend of mine. So there was that connection, and we loved each other's work, and we got on great together. So it was cool, you know. I enjoyed giving him a hard time, you know.
Awesome. And I remember when I talked to Ed, he's kind of said that they lucked out with that set because they were able to kind of like, I think they had to have it for a little bit longer. I imagine in an indie film, when you have a small cast, did you also get involved in some of the just kind of the I don't know, grunt work is the right word, but just kind of, I feel like in an indie film, maybe everyone kind of carries multiple hats. Were you able to do that as well, or did you have to do that as well, or were you kind of did you have more limited time?
Usually the actors don't do a whole lot of the grunt work. No,
okay.
Everyone else works really hard around the actors, and the actors go in and say their lines basically, and hopefully they remember them, and it runs smoothly. Because the thing about these independent movies, you don't get a lot of takes or a lot of chances to get it right, you know. Definitely. So hopefully everyone's on their top form.
And then the thing with the film that was interesting, I liked kind of the end was a little bit confusing, but I liked how just kind of up in the air it was. Do you know if did you film multiple potential endings? I know with indie films, maybe you don't get the chance to do that, but I was just curious, you know, were there other ways that this film could have ended, or maybe the script had alternate endings that then didn't come to life?
Yeah, well, when Ed got the finished product, I think when he finished shooting, you'd have to, that's more of a question for Ed, but I think he could have done the movie a bunch of different ways. He edited the first edit, I think he wasn't happy with, so he re-edited to tell the story in a different way. So you could be right about the ending, whether he had a couple of endings, he probably had actually, and he decided on that one. But I know talking to him that he did change the edit around a bit to make certain things work, you know. So
Awesome. I love the, I don't know, kind of like a gothic monster type feel that this had, except but it didn't have any of those trappings. It was such an interesting, unique film. Have you done any other projects like that? You know, I guess it's kind of like a fantasy film, but it's also more modern and doesn't have any of the kind of fantasy tropes. Have you done other movies in that genre? I think I associate you more with like a historical actor, or like, you know, like I don't know, something more in a more modern real life type situation.
yeah, I did a movie up in they're the same crowd that are producing this Western, actually, a movie called Fire Island. And that was, I think, in the spring of this year. And that is kind of, you know, for a better word, a horror movie, or that type of genre, you know. But in that particular one, I wasn't playing the lead, and I just did him a favor and just did a small character part in it, you know. So yeah. And then they wanted me to do another movie that they were doing, another horror one in Ireland, set in a bog in Ireland.
Oh.
And that got postponed. And that was a bit of a cross between An Irish Summer and Midsummer. You know, that movie,
Mhm.
Midsummer, that kind of Swedish movie that they did with the Americans coming over. Anyway, yeah, so they were the horror movies. And have I done any? I probably, you know, I've done so much work. There's probably some other one. Shallow Ground, I did many, many years ago. That was another kind of horror movie. Yeah, so.
Perfect. And you said postponed, right? Because that film you were just describing sounds amazing, and I 100% want to see that as soon as it's out. The Irish fog film.
I'll let you know when that one is out. Yeah, definitely.
Perfect.
Or you should look up another interesting one to look up is the Newport Beach Film Festival. That if you look up in Newport Beach Film Festival,
Mhm.
it's called Mandible, and it just shows you what movies can do. And that's kind of it's like the Twilight Zone, if you know that.
Mhm.
And it's by, you know, Tarantino, cinematographer, did it, and it's called Mandible. But you should look it up. It's quite a horror movie about a dentist, you know. So.
That sounds great. I mean, I love horror.
It's very short. So
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. So now I'd like to switch. I call it the lightning round. They're just lightweight questions that kind of relate to the film and things that happen. I want to see how your experiences relate to things that happen in the movie. You can feel free not to answer any of them. I won't be offended, but I try to keep them very answerable.
No problem.
And this might be a long time with kind of the way the world is, but when was the last time you had like a big family meal?
A big family meal where all my family got together, I suppose. Well, in Ireland, it was last October, about 2 years ago, October 2019. My father died, so the family had a big meal at the funeral. So that was a big kind of meal, also associated with death in some ways.
Yeah,
so that was, yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry that that's what caused the family gathering. You know, I guess was it enjoyable, somber, somewhere in between? I guess those are kind of mixed emotions when that happens.
I think, well, at the particular meal after the funeral, everybody was in good form and having fun and telling stories and celebrating my father's life. He was an amazing man and a kind, empathetic person, and with a great sense of humor. And he had one of the biggest funerals in our little village in Ireland, in Tralee, in Ireland. There's 300 people at the funeral or something. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So there's like a celebration of life, which is kind of what I would hope my eventual funeral is, and not just maybe people are just saying bye, see you later.
Yeah.
And so I guess this kind of relates to the next question. Are your family meals, are they enjoyable, contentious? Because the one in Broil was a little bit more contentious. So it sounds like they're kind of enjoyable experiences.
Yeah, my family is not a dysfunctional family. We're
Excellent.
we love each other. Me and my brothers and sisters, we love each other very much, and we loved our parents, and they were great. My own family, with my wife and my 2 kids, yeah, there's a huge amount of love. So I can't say it's dysfunctional at all, or even come close to that vampire thing, or you know, the Broil thing.
Thus, a testament to your acting ability that you were able to portray that, you know, this wholly different experience on screen.
Yeah.
What was the last, like, I guess, elaborate or big meal that you made?
The last big meal that I made.
Or it could be like an elaborate dish that you made.
Yeah, I mean, pre-COVID or pre my marriage, I suppose, which is a number of years ago now, I used to do these massive St. Patrick's Day parties where I would, like, in my place, I would start cooking Irish stew first thing in the morning. I'd have, like, 50 to 100 people there. Everybody would get, drunk and eat Irish stew. So I think the huge, big, elaborate thing would be that. Yeah.
That's perfect. My wife is Irish too, and so every St. Patrick's Day she puts together this amazing meal that I just happy to eat as soon as it's done.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
How many knives do you have around you? Because the knives were a big aspect of Broil.
Knives. A guy gave me a knife one time as a present, and he thought it's one of those knives you strap onto your waist thing, and he thought I'd be, he was dressed, I suppose, he was dressed like a hipster, so the knife kind of worked just hanging off him. But if I went around town with a knife hanging out off the side of me, people would be looking at me as if to say, who the fuck is this guy? So I don't usually have knives around me, no.
Oh, and hell hath no fury. All you have to have is a tank top on and a knife, and you look perfect. So maybe it's a situational.
And a motorcycle, and I look cool. Exactly.
Exactly. And the last question is, what is the most dangerous thing that you have eaten? Like, I don't know, blowfish or snake or something like that?
The most dangerous stuff I've eaten. I've eaten nothing. I mean, the most dangerous stuff is. I think I swallowed something one day and I nearly choked, but I forget what that was. Or when you get food poisoning, I remember I was down in Mexico one time and I got Montezuma's revenge. So that was from eating, I think, a beef taco out in the street or something, It was very tasty at the time, but obviously my stomach didn't think so,
Yeah, tasty one way, not tasty the other way.
Exactly.
Awesome. And I guess one more question. When you cook, do you wear like a cool apron? Do you have like a whole setup, or do you just kind of go cooking whatever you're wearing?
No, whatever I'm wearing in the kitchen is usually demolished, but the meal comes out very tasty and very nice.
I think that's the sign of a good meal. When the kitchen is all demolished, you put everything into the meal, and there you go. That's
me, totally.
Awesome. And you are a prolific actor. You've been in like everything. So Broil is already out. It came out on Blu-ray, I believe, last year. And you can find it, on Blu-ray, digital, wherever. But what else can people look for you in? Other projects you have coming out recently that people can look for you? Yeah,
I think we did just before COVID. It was in the Man's Chinese Theater a couple of months ago. It's called New Year. It's a movie. And what else? That thing, Fire Island, will be coming out. Hell Hath No Fury. I'm gonna forget something now because I've lots and lots of friggin' stuff that I've done that seems to be coming out at different times. Yeah, as I said, MacGruber will be out, I think, in December. I just did a thing called SWAT down in Mexico. That's been out. And a thing called Under Siege. And the movie I'm doing now is called Night. That'll be out next year. And yeah, I'm obviously forgetting something. Someone's going to shoot me and say, why didn't you mention our movie? Oh, In Full Bloom is getting a lot of traction now. And I think you can get it on Amazon as well. So that's a boxing movie. I did a supporting role in that. And yeah, so.
Perfect. Lots of products. I think that is actually something I've heard from indie people who do indie movies, is like sometimes you'll do the movie and then it just kind of goes away for a bit because they're trying to figure out editing, and then they're trying to get distribution. So it just kind of could pop up a few years later, like, oh, and this movie's now coming out that I did a couple of years ago. So totally.
Yeah. Or the Western that I'm doing as well. Yeah, have a look. I'll let you know when that's coming out as well. So that'll be out next year, I suppose. Yeah.
Perfect. All good things to look for. And this is Timothy V. Murphy. He is a prolific actor. He was August Sinclair in Broil, which is out everywhere, digital, disc, wherever you want to watch it. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks very much. Great talking to you.
Great talking to you. That was Timothy V. Murphy talking about Broil, which is out pretty much everywhere. It came out on Blu-ray last year, and it came out digitally as well. So you can check it out however you want. It's a really interesting film. It straddles a few genres. I love it because it has horror aspects, it has fantasy aspects. It's a very interesting film, and I really, really enjoyed it. It also has fantastic music and some really good acting by Timothy V. Murphy. So you should check it out. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. And please check out my other content. I've got other movie reviews, interviews, unboxing videos, and a weekly movie recommendation. Thank you.